The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X-Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, and Star Cable and Ustream. I get those two mixed up sometimes. It is Friday, July the 9th in the year 2010, and my first guest tonight is Bobby Legend, and we're going to be talking about Afghanistan, from the land of kings to a hiding place for terrorists, and how Afghanistan was actually transitioned from paradise to hell. Bobby took a trip of a lifetime in the early 70s from, 1970 until 1974. He traveled to an exotic country known for its proximity to biblical paradise. It was the land of kings and an open market of the drug culture. The land of Afghanistan. It was the land of kings and an open market, as I said, to drugs. This knowledgeable guest recounts how life used to be in Afghanistan and how it turned into a land for terrorists. Nearly killed leaving Afghanistan and befriended by the reigning king's son, Bobby Legend has an insider's view of the Afghan sovereignty. Legend explains the culture and politics of one of the most fascinating areas in the world, Exonation. And Bobby explains the culture and politics of one of the most fascinating areas ever visited. Joining me now is Bobby Legend. And Bobby, welcome back to the X-Zone. It's been quite some time since you've been with us.
It has. I'm glad to be with you.
Bobby, Afghanistan's front and center in the news with the resignation of General McChrystal last week to the changing of the guards, so to speak, with General Petraeus now being in charge of the events happening in Afghanistan. As a visitor to Afghanistan, and, Bobby, what do you think when you see what's going on in Afghanistan today?
It's pathetic. Petraeus, I will say right now, will fare no better than McChrystal.
Why is that?
And because of the Afghan, and not only are we fighting the Afghan mujahideen and jihadists and the so-called Taliban, but now we're also fighting the Pakistani jihadists, which for 50 years the Afghan and Pakistanis were feuding. Now that America invaded Afghanistan, they set aside their differences, and now we're fighting both countries' jihadists.
Bobby, stand by. You and I have to take our commercial break. We'll be right back talking about from the land of kings to a hiding place for terrorists, how Afghanistan transitioned from paradise to hell with our very special guest this hour, Bobby Legend. For more information on Bobby, visit his website, www.legendpublishingcompany.com. That's www.legendpublishingcompany.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. 1-800-610-7035 is toll-free worldwide. And Bobby Legend and I return in 2 minutes. Don't. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen.
Bobby Legend is our special guest, and Bobby, having spent 4 years in Afghanistan, when you were there, Bobby, what was Afghanistan like?
It was a beautiful country. You could travel mostly any place other than Nuristan, which was basically the province that the king couldn't defeat. That was where most of the smuggling took place, from Afghanistan to Pakistan, and the Mujahideen actually made sure and was paid that the smuggling went through without any problems. And they smuggled opium and bought weapons from the money they got from the opium and brought them back to Afghanistan. Pakistan is known for their copying of any type of weapon that is made. And it was, like I said, I traveled up to Mazar-i-Sharif, the Balkh province, a couple miles from the Russian border. And you have to remember, back then, we had the Cold War. Actually, I was sent there to gather information on the potential of the terrorists.
So were you sent there by the CIA, Bobby?
Under the tutelage of CIA Director Richard Helms. It was my job to infiltrate the Afghan hierarchy and feed information to the American embassy.
How did you get recruited?
How did you revolution of Islam?
How did you get recruited into the CIA?
Back in 1967, I was one of two students picked to go to Spain to study at the University of Madrid in Granada, and by the World Academy of Foreign Exchange Students. And we went to the American Embassy to a party at the American Embassy, and there are a few guys recruiting for the CIA and other intelligence departments. And I traveled throughout the world.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, I traveled as a tourist. That was my cover. I didn't sign as a foreign agent. I stayed without a visa to gather this information on the potential revolution of Islam. We knew 40 years ago that this day would come upon us, but we turned a blind eye because Saudi Arabia was funneling money to the Pakistani intelligence, to the Mujahideen, and the Wahhabis, the Imams, and they were taking orphans off the street
Mm-hmm.
and making them study the Quran, actually memorizing the Quran because it was in Arabic, and they were very uneducated, could only speak Dari, English, a few other languages, and they learned the version of the Wahhabist Islam. And they were meant, and that's who we're fighting today. We're fighting those same people. And the same people who brought the Taliban in was Saudi Arabia. And they did the same thing as they did 40 years ago. They funneled money to the Pakistani intelligence, gave it to the Taliban, who were actually the hierarchy of the Taliban were from Saudi Arabia, and they in turn bought the Mujahideen to fight the so-called warlords in the other provinces who actually were either ex-generals or governors of that province. And the only province that they couldn't defeat was Badakhshan, and who, by the way, the warlord, the ex-general, was the biggest opium grower in Afghanistan, and that's who the CIA used to invade the Taliban. We gave them their support, and our few thousand troops that were there at the time, and we used his tribes to oust the Taliban from power. And the Taliban were all made up of religious leaders. You know, it would be very easy for us to stop the so-called terrorists from fighting.
How?
All we would need to do would, as we did with the Shiite Imam, the top Imam in Iraq for the Shiites, is go to him and plead with him to tell the jihadists to drop their weapons and be peaceful. Because the Afghan only has their religion. Their annual income is $50 per year for a family of four. That's one reason why they grow opium. Because in that type of arid country, there's either desert or mountains. The only thing that will grow is the poppy. And there was no such thing as heroin when I was there. They grew poppy mainly for the Afghans, and that's part of their culture. They can't go to a pharmacy to buy pharmaceutical medicine when their children or family is sick, so they use the complete poppy plant for medicinal purposes, and then what was left over, they usually sold it to the open market for the rest of the people in Afghanistan. You know, opium there was very cheap at the time. And it's just in the, last 10 years that opium had become so big because of the Europeans and the Russians, the FDB, who are using the Afghan to supply them with opium to turn into heroin, to sell to the European and Russian market. And now even China has a heroin problem.
You know, Bobby, I've looked at your bio. You've been a tool and die maker. You've played in bands and you've been everywhere, but nowhere in your bio does it mention the CIA.
I also worked in. No, I never mentioned that.
You
in
just
fact,
did before.
I'm writing The Age of Aquarius, and that has to go through the intelligence service before I can put it out.
Why?
Well, because there's things in there that a lot of people don't want. I had 2 radio shows that the FBI shut down because of my political views on Afghanistan and Pakistan, and especially our prison system here, which is the largest manufacturer in the country.
But what about the First Amendment, freedom of the press?
Are you serious?
Yeah, I am.
If you the American citizen is very naive. The CIA has their own editors, their own journalists. Same as I'll just give you an example. Same as the Bush administration. How many journalists did they buy to sell their views to the American public?
I don't know. I
That
don't
is
think
called
anything's ever been
propaganda.
published.
You know, the American citizen right now, we're in the same situation that the Soviet Union was in, fighting the Afghans while their economy was faltering. What is happening now to our country? We're spending all our money on a war, making our generals very rich, not having an accounting of where the money goes. I also worked in the Defense Department. That's one of the things you get when you retire from the government.
What's that? What do you get?
You get to work in the Defense Department. I was project manager for the F-20 Tiger Shark in the Engineering Test Lab. I was leader and project manager of the Engineering Test Lab at Northrop in California.
Yeah.
And I also was one of 30,000 people who made and designed tooling for an integral part of the B-2 bomber, which was a fuel injection system made out of Kevlar. They couldn't get that made without cutting it and leaving a burr. I made and designed 2 diamond cutters that when you cut the Kevlar, it didn't leave a burr. And they told me I could write, become vice president, get whatever I wanted. They did give me the chance, but working in a top security building in Pico Rivera when I was on the ocean and going through 20 spot checks to get to your job site was not for me. So I know the deep, and I was also liaison to a light colonel through the Pentagon for the B-2 bomber, and we were also developing a stealth fighter, which we were going against Lockheed, and you know now that Lockheed won.
All right, Bobby, I'm getting mixed signals here. You worked for the CIA. You claim going back to your earlier days, and you know as we progressed, it seems that you've got a grudge against the government.
I do.
Why?
Because what has our politicians do but lie to the American public? 10 million people are out of jobs. We're giving the military-industrial complex $1 trillion. For what?
Bobby, don't you believe... Bobby, don't... we've got to take a commercial break with the news. So, cool your jets a little bit, pal. You're getting really hot under the collar, and you're coming across...
Well, I'm very passionate.
Well, wait a sec. Hey, slow down here, okay? You may be passionate, but that doesn't mean you just can go off on a rant and a rave. Stick to the questions. I'll be glad to talk to you.
No problem.
All right, we'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies,
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows,
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
Joining me this hour is the very passionate Bobby Legend, www.legendpublishingcompany.com. Hey, Bobby, why did you send back more than 1 ton of hash home to your friends in America from Afghanistan and then end up broke?
Because I gave all my money to the Afghan people. You know, when you saw children 3-4 years old in 2 foot of snow without any shoes, without any coats, carrying 2 buckets of water from a well that's a mile away or half a mile away, after being their friends for 4 years, to me, money meant nothing. You know, you could always make money. But when you saw the starvation of the Afghan kids especially, that's where my money went.
Tell me, Bobby,
I left it in the country.
Tell me, Bobby, do you love the United States of America?
Of course. If Russia invaded our country right now because they didn't like our politics, I would definitely pick up a gun and join the closest militia possible and fight the invading intruders trying to take over our country. I definitely love America. That's why I'm so passionate.
But what about the Taliban and the other forces that are outside of the United States that want to take away our way of living, our freedom, our democracies? They're just as dangerous as the Russians are.
I don't think they're quite as dangerous as the Russians.
What about 9/11? The Russians didn't do 9/11.
No, but they have quite a few thousand nuclear weapons pointed toward America.
So do we. We've got a number of nuclear weapons pointed at them too. So what's the sense? You know, but they didn't fly planes into the Twin Towers. They didn't kill 3,000 people.
No, but we don't want to get into that either.
Why not?
Because I have a different perspective.
Don't tell me you're one of these conspiracy people who think that it was the United States government that took out 3,000 of their own people.
I didn't say that. You said it.
Oh, so that's what you think.
It was definitely Saudis. The most of the terrorists came from Saudi Arabia, which were, we definitely have terrorists here in America, and we have quite a few from Iran. And they're trying to bring Islam to the world in their way. You know, just like the Palestinian, they have no weapons of mass destruction like the Israelis with missiles and jets and those type of weapons. So what do? They have an ideal. They use their own bodies as bombs, which I condemn, but you have to remember their culture, their way of thinking. They live on a vendetta system. When they see their families being killed by a missile that's meant for a so-called terrorist, and the Israelis blow up the whole building to kill that one terrorist, well, same in Afghanistan. They have to kill those who killed their family, or they have no respect of their tribe.
Sounds rather cannibalistic to me.
Cannibalistic?
Yeah, you know, like it sounds like they've got a lot of growing up to do, because that's not what rational people do.
Well, to them it's rational. To us it's not.
To me it makes no sense. Does it make sense to you?
But you see, we live in a different culture.
Yeah, that's right. We live in a democracy. We live in freedom. We live in peace. We don't carry guns everywhere we go. We don't go out of our way to kill people. That's right. We do live in a different place. I'm sorry.
That's the problem with our military. You see, they can go to these little villages and hand out blankets and give the kids gifts and think that that village will take them in as their friends. But the thinking of the Afghan is they'll let you think that way when actually they're using their to give to the jihadists, just like in one interview with Bob Dolan, the top nuclear physicist on nuclear weapons for the United States government. Him and I had an interview with a host in New Jersey. And we were asked what the military needs to do in order to win this war the way we're fighting. Well, Mr. Dolan said, we need another 30,000 troops and invade Pakistan. And I replied, well, if we're going to continue fighting the way we are, we're just going to end up losing more of our brave soldiers. And instead of the jihadists and so-called Taliban sending in 40 people to fight a squadron or platoon, they'll use 2 or 3. And what happened 3 weeks later, that's exactly what happened. A platoon was pinned down by 3 Afghani. 9 were killed, 40 were wounded.
Yeah, but you see, there's a whole different way of fighting a war over there. For example, the Afghani don't have anything known as rules of engagement. They're out there to kill. Their job is to kill, and they don't care how they kill or who they kill. Well, and I'm sorry, yes, they do care who they kill. They want to kill the Americans. They want to kill the peacekeepers. They want to kill the good guys, because according to them, they're the good guys. But you know what? They don't wear uniforms. Our troops wear uniforms with pride, I might add.
That's right. I agree. But number one, when you live on $50 a year to feed a family of 4, they can't afford uniforms.
But is that the problem of the people of the rest of the world, that Afghanistan is so backwards and that they're so poor? And that their government, and wait a minute, and that their government didn't have the foresight or the ability or the comprehension to turn Afghanistan into a thriving country like the other countries that they're so ticked off at? It's greed. It's jealousy.
But he was ousted, unfortunately, by his cousin, who had been the president of the Ministry of Defense, and then he was prime minister. Mm-hmm. And once the king saw that he was putting his friends in as generals, he had the Loya Jirga make a law stating that no relatives could hold that kind of power. So for 12 years, Muhammad Daoud was biding his time, waiting for the right time to strike. And when the king left for eye surgery to England, mm-hmm. Muhammad Daoud just phoned his top generals that he had put into their place and said, "I am now president." There was not one person killed in that coup. And unfortunately for him, he's the one that brought in the Russians. And 4 years later, when he refused to do what the Russians had told him to do, they assassinated him. Then they brought in another president, Amin, who, when he refused after 1 year to take orders from the Russians, they assassinated him. The Russians went through 2 other presidents, and that's what started the Civil War. I knew people in the Mujahideen. That was one of my things I had to get information on. The Mujahideen, one of my friends, Mokhtar from Kandahar, he was in Kabul selling hashish to the tourists to make money to send back to his family in Kandahar. I asked him, I said, Mokhtar, because I said, why do you carry that Kalashnikov automatic weapon? Because everybody in Afghanistan, you can't tell who's a good guy or a bad guy. They all carry weapons.
Well, it's very simple now. The good guys wear the proud uniforms of the coalition forces.
No,
we took care of that problem.
I'm speaking about the jihadists. I'm not talking about our military or NATO. You know, what I'm saying is they're trying to bring democracy to a people that don't want democracy. They're living in the year 1392.
And that's exactly why they're only living on $50 a month, because they are unable to move forward, for God's sake. And if that's the way they want to live, build a big fence around Afghanistan and let them be happy. They have no right they have no right whatsoever trying to put on the rest of the world or show greed and animosity on the rest of the world because they don't have the ability to move forward.
Well, the only problem is, 99.9% of Muslims aren't terrorists. It's a very
Now, wait
minority.
a minute. Wait a minute. I didn't say Muslims. I said Afghanistans.
They're Muslim.
I didn't bring the Muslims into this.
Well, you have to bring the Muslims.
No, sir,
this.
you don't, because if you look at other countries throughout the world, there are many countries where where Muslims are the majority in the religious sectors that are very rich and very prosperous. Yes or no?
That's true.
Okay, so we can't look at Afghanistan and say because they're Muslims. No, it's because they're Afghanistans. This is their mentality. This is the way that they have been brought up throughout history. It has nothing to do with their religious culture.
Well, the Afghan only lives for Allah. The Mujahideen, you have to think of the Mujahideen like the Indian back in the 1800s when our military had to fight the Indian. That's the thinking that the Afghan has.
Well, you see, the way I look at it, the Afghan is in his own country, and what he wants to do in his own country is his own business.
You're right.
But
so why are we there?
Do you follow politics?
Of course I follow politics.
Then you tell me why we're there.
I've been trying to answer that question for quite a while. And the only thing I can come up with is because of the pipeline that we're building from Uzbekistan to Pakistan.
Oh, wait a
And
minute.
Let me finish. And if you remember,
oh, boy.
before the World Trade Center bombing, President George W. Bush brought the Taliban to his estate in Texas and pleaded with them to allow our government to make that pipeline. When they refused, Cheney told them it's either the pipeline or bombs. And we give them bombs.
Oh, okay. So,
we used Osama bin Laden as the propaganda to invade that country.
Oh, come on. Propaganda? Where do you get your facts? What planet are you from?
Why don't we fight the country that's actually funneling all this money? You know, we have 17 intelligence departments. 17.
Yeah, so?
Why don't we use them?
We do. Why don't you do something instead of talking? Why don't you run for some office where you might be able to make a difference instead of just blabbing off and shooting off your mouth on radio shows?
Is that what I'm doing?
Why don't you take a proactive stance instead of just... Is Bobby Legend your real name?
No, that's my pen name. Mark Twain.
What's your real name?
Robert Willingham.
Okay, why don't you...
It's in my book.
So why don't you call yourself Robert Willingham instead of Bobby Legend?
Because that's my pen name that I wish to use. Is that okay?
Hey, I don't care.
Samuel Clemens used Mark
Twain.
But
he was an accomplished author, for God's sake. Are you comparing yourself to Mark Twain?
No, I'm just saying that I have a right to use a pen name.
Yeah, and I've got a right to end this interview whenever I want. And you know what? That's exactly what I'm doing right now. This guy's out to lunch. I think he's on a little bit too much hashish from Afghanistan. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone. X Zone Nation, don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hello, I'm Pete Marsh. With my daughter Justina, we will be presenting the new radio show, Too Good to Be True. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But with the help of Justina's amazing gifts, we're going to gain insight into questions that don't yet have complete answers. Have you wondered who built Stonehenge and for what reason? Why are crop circles found in the same region as Stonehenge and elsewhere? Are crop circles a hoax, or are they created with technologies that we have little knowledge of? Who built the pyramids in Egypt and also in other countries? How and why were they built? Was the Titanic switched with the Britannic as part of a gigantic insurance fraud, or for more insidious reasons? What caused the Tunguska event when trees were flattened over an 800 square mile area in Siberia? Will the new insights be too good to be true? Well, that will depend on what you are prepared to believe. Please join us as we start on this journey together. For more information on Too Good to Be True, visit www.xzbn.net.
Dreams are our personal gateways into infinite wisdom. Don't miss shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Corcoran's inspiring book, Shamanic Awakening Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles Sandra's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers and her initiations throughout the Americas and across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt. Sandy's knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private tarot readings, international journeys, a meditative CD, as well as her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate this earth walk, creating a deeper connection to yourself and all that is. Find this and more at Sandy's website, starwalkervisions.com.
Oh my God! What is that guy on? just don't understand people like that. Well, wait a second. What did it say here in his PR? He sent more than 1 ton of hashish back to his friends in America from Afghanistan and ended up broke. Now, nowhere in his bio anywhere, and Craig has been looking ferociously over the last hour to find any reference to Bobby Legend or his real name, and I don't have it right in front of me, but Bobby Legend is not his real name. It's his pen name. I call those names to hide behind, so that when talk shows do research on you, they can't find your real name and do a background check, but we will do that. You know, and he claimed he was with the CIA. Nowhere could we find any reference to Bobby Legend from Legend Publishing Company connected to the CIA. In fact, you heard me ask him, and he said, well, no, I've never mentioned it before. Yeah. Sounds like a colonel I know in Prague, Czechoslovakia. Do I believe this guy? No, I think he's got an axe to grudge. I think he hides behind a pen name. And when your website only has 887 hits, I guess that explains it all. Can't get my book published. Go and open up my own publishing company. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to tell people how bad America is. I'm going to tell people what the real cause of the war is. I'm going to try and tell the world that, yep, 9/11 was all our doing. Yep, we killed 3,000 of our own people. Why? Well, according to Bobby Legend, to put an oil pipeline throughout Afghanistan. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that there's a lot of terrorists in Afghanistan. Maybe it has something to do with the number one criminal in all the world at this time, Osama bin Laden, is believed to be in Afghanistan. Maybe it has something to do with that. I think this guy's got an axe to grind with the United States for some unknown reason. Do I believe that he was a CIA operative? Not in your life. I think it may be a figment of his oversmoked imagination. However, he is entitled to his rights. But if he wants to shoot the bull, he's got to find another venue, because I don't buy it. I really don't buy it. And I'll tell you something. I can't understand how he could win a conversation or a discussion over a nuclear physicist. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue after the news at the top of the hour at 6.5 minutes past here in the X Zone. You're listening to the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. 1-800-610-7035. Toll free worldwide. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Personally, I thank God for all the men and women all over this world of ours who fight for democracy, our freedom, our way of life, and who, in many cases, have paid the supreme sacrifice for us. And people like you, Bobby Legend. Don't go away.